There comes a time in every man's life when he realizes women are not just what they say, but what they reveal when they think no one is watching. You see, life is not always about the big speeches, the grand gestures, or the social media posts. It's about the small, almost invisible signals that speak louder than words. And if you are a man who seeks not just attraction, but truth, you must learn to see beyond the surface. Because here's the reality: in this world of blurred lines between love, lust, and loneliness, many men walk blind, guessing, assuming, or getting played. And it's not about being paranoid, it's about being aware. Every man who values himself deserves to know the difference between a woman who is emotionally available and one who has just shared herself intimately with someone else. Now, this is not about shaming women. No, this is about empowering men to see, to understand the emotional language that many never learn to read. When you miss these signs, you set yourself up for disappointment, manipulation, or heartbreak. But when you master them, you stand in clarity, in control, and in truth. And that, my brother, is the beginning of becoming a man of value. They say the eyes are the window to the soul, and there is truth in that saying. Because no matter how carefully a woman chooses her words, no matter how perfectly she tries to carry herself, her eyes will always tell the story, her lips will not. After a woman has shared her body with someone, especially recently, her eyes reflect a subtle but undeniable change. It is not about guilt, shame, or judgment. It is about release. Think about it. Intimacy is not just physical. It is emotional, spiritual, and psychological. It is a transaction of energy. And after that energy has been exchanged, something shifts. Her eyes no longer carry the same spark of anticipation. Instead, you may notice a softness, a calm, almost a glow, as if she has just crossed a threshold of experience. Sometimes it is a distant calmness, like she has left a piece of herself somewhere else. Other times it is a satisfied heaviness, a fullness that doesn't need words. But either way, the eyes betray the truth. You will notice that when you look at her, she doesn't quite look back the same way. Her gaze lingers differently, or it avoids yours altogether. Now here's the reality: most men ignore women, are incredibly skilled at hiding emotions through actions and words. But the eyes do not rehearse. They do not perform. They simply reveal. When she has just been intimate, especially if it was not with you, her eyes might carry that subtle shift, like a candle that has just been blown out, leaving a trace of smoke in the air. But here's the warning, brother, this is not about staring into her soul like a detective. It's not about accusing, questioning, or cornering her. The point is awareness. To be a man of value, you must learn to observe without desperation, to see without needing to control. Because the moment you see the truth in her eyes, the real question is not what did she do, but rather what do I deserve? If you are a man who values himself, her eyes will not make you anxious. They will make you decisive. You will not beg for clarity. You will know what you see, and you will act accordingly. Energy doesn't lie. You can fake a smile, rehearse your words, and even dress up your actions, but the energy you carry into a room will always reveal the truth. And when it comes to women, energy is often the clearest sign of what she has just experienced. Before intimacy, there is a certain tension in her spirit. You'll notice it. Playfulness, excitement, a spark of anticipation. Her laughter comes quickly. Her presence feels alive, almost electric. She might lean in more, flirt with her eyes, or tease with her words. That's the energy of desire building up. But after intimacy, the vibration changes. It's not something dramatic, it's subtle, but powerful. She becomes calmer, sometimes quieter. Her body is lighter, her voice softer, her movements slower. Why? Because intimacy is not just about the body, it's about release. When a woman has shared herself, her energy often carries that sense of fulfillment, or sometimes detachment, depending on how she feels about the man she was with. This is where most men get confused. You see, if she was deeply connected to him, her energy may radiate satisfaction, a kind of glow that feels peaceful. But if it was shallow, meaningless, or transactional, her energy might feel empty, dull, disconnected, almost drained. Either way, the difference is clear. The danger is when men ignore these signals. You'll see her energy shift, but you'll brush it off as she's tired or she's just moody. No. Learn to pay attention. Her aura, her spirit, her vibe. It tells you more than her words ever will. And here's the painful truth, sometimes that energy will not include you. It's not about whether she's happy or sad. It's about whether her energy still flows in your direction, or if it's been given to someone else. But let me be clear, this awareness is not a license to become paranoid or controlling. A man of value does not chase energy desperately. Instead, he observes it, he respects it, and he decides what to do with it. You cannot force a woman's energy to orbit around you. You can only build yourself into a man whose presence naturally demands alignment. So, brother, remember this: watch her energy, not just her words. Because where her energy flows is where her truth goes. One of the clearest, yet most misunderstood signs a woman gives after intimacy is distance. Not physical distance. You may still see her, still text her, still share the same space. I'm talking about emotional distance. The quiet gap between what she shows you and what she truly feels inside. Here's the truth: intimacy changes the way a woman processes emotions. For some women, it deepens the bond. For others, especially when it's not with you, it creates withdrawal. She may suddenly seem distracted, unavailable, or oddly detached. Conversations that once flowed easily may now feel like you're pulling teeth. Her laughter feels rehearsed, her answers shorter, her presence colder. Most men misinterpret this. They say, she's just busy, or she needs space. But the reality is this: emotional distance is rarely random. It is almost always a reflection of where her heart and mind truly are. After intimacy, especially when it's fresh, her emotional world is reorganizing. If you're not the one she shared herself with, you may feel like she's pulling away, because in truth, she is. This is where many men get trapped. They sense the distance but respond with chasing, begging, or overcompensating. They call more, text more, and or try to prove their worth. And instead of bringing her closer, it pushes her further away. Why? Because energy cannot be forced. When her emotions are invested elsewhere, no amount of persuasion will bring them back. Now here's the part that separates boys from men. A high-value man doesn't panic when he feels that distance. He doesn't interrogate, accuse, or demand answers. He simply observes. He knows that if her emotional presence has shifted away from him, then she has revealed her truth without saying a word. Brother, understand this. Love and intimacy are not measured by how much time she spends with you, but by how deeply her heart leans toward you. If she feels distant after being with someone else, that's not your failure. That's her choice. And your response should not be desperation. It should be clarity. Because a man of value doesn't chase the woman who is pulling away. He recognizes the distance, and instead of filling it with fear, he fills it with self-respect. That is how you protect your heart, your peace, and your future. The body never lies. A woman can master her words, rehearse her excuses, and even disguise her emotions, but her body will always reveal the truth. After intimacy, a woman's body carries subtle signals, changes that may seem invisible to the untrained eye, but to a man who pays attention, they speak volumes. Think about it. Intimacy is not just a physical act. It is an exchange of energy, a release of tension, a moment where her body responds to a deep, primal connection. And after that, her body tells the story. You might notice it in her skin, smoother, glowing, with a softness that wasn't there before. Or perhaps in her posture, more relaxed, as if a weight has been lifted. Sometimes it shows up as fatigue, a slower rhythm in her movements, a tired calmness in the way she carries herself. But here's the key: these are not just random details. They are reflections of where she has been and what she has experienced. The way she shifts in her seat, the way she carries her frame, the subtle signs of physical release. These are things you cannot hide, no matter how polished the performance. For some women, their body language after intimacy becomes more affectionate. She leans closer, touches more often, as if trying to extend that connection into the next moment. For others, it is the opposite. She withdraws, becomes restless, avoids touch, because her body has already given what it wanted to someone else. Most men don't notice. They're too focused on what she says, too distracted by charm or beauty to observe the body's silent language. But a man of awareness understands that the truth is often unspoken. Her body will whisper what her mouth refuses to say. But let me warn you, this is not about hunting for proof or playing detective. It is about emotional intelligence, about being tuned in, not desperate. If her body tells you she has shifted, your job is not to accuse. it is to decide. To recognize whether you want to stay in alignment with her reality or step away and protect your own. Because at the end of the day, her body language is not just about her. It's about you. Will you trust your eyes, your instincts, your discernment? Or will you ignore the signs and lose yourself in denial? A high-value man knows the body speaks, and if you listen closely, it will save you from years of confusion. If you want to know where a woman's heart is, pay attention not just to what she says, but how she says it. Words are powerful, yes, but tone, timing, and consistency are even more revealing. After intimacy, especially when it wasn't with you, her style of communication often shifts. Think about it. Before, she might have been quick to reply, eager to talk, always willing to share details about her day. There was warmth in her words, playfulness in her tone, and a rhythm in her communication that made you feel connected. But once she has shared herself with someone else, that flow changes. Messages take longer. Calls become shorter. The sparkle in her voice fades. You may even sense that she is speaking to you out of obligation rather than desire. Sometimes it shows up as withdrawal. She becomes quieter, less engaged, giving short, surface-level answers. Other times it comes as overcompensation. She suddenly becomes overly sweet, overly attentive, trying to mask the shift by pouring on affection that doesn't quite feel natural. Either way, the truth is the same. Her communication is no longer effortless. It's controlled. And here's the part most men overlook. A woman's communication is a reflection of her investment. When her words grow distant, it means her emotions have shifted. When her tone sounds forced, it means her truth lies elsewhere. You don't need her to confess. You don't need evidence. Her language has already told the story. But here's the danger. Brother, too many men notice the change and immediately start chasing harder. They send more texts, they demand more calls, they beg for more attention. And in doing so, they lower their value. A high-value man does the opposite. He notices the shift, he acknowledges the truth, and he acts with dignity. He doesn't fight for breadcrumbs of attention. He requires the full meal or nothing at all. Remember this, a woman who truly values you will communicate with consistency, not confusion. If you constantly feel the need to decode her words, then she has already revealed her position. And as a man of worth, your job is not to argue with the signs. It is to trust them. Because in the end, communication is not just about words. It is about energy, investment, and truth. And the man who learns to listen between the lines never loses his way. By now, you've seen the patterns, the eyes, the energy, the distance, the body language, the communication shifts. But here's the hardest truth of all. Brother, this entire journey is not about her. It's about you. Too many men waste their lives playing detective in relationships. They spend nights analyzing her texts, days replaying her body language, weeks searching for evidence to confirm what their gut already knows. But in doing so, they miss the real lesson. The point is not to catch her. The point is to check yourself. Ask yourself, why am I even in a situation where I need to decode someone's every move? Why am I tolerating uncertainty, mixed signals, or emotional inconsistency? A man of value does not stay in the shadows of doubt. He builds a life so strong, so clear, and so disciplined that the wrong kind of woman cannot even breathe in his space. When you raise your standards, you no longer beg for honesty. You attract it. When you know your worth, you don't chase women who play games. You filter them out effortlessly. And when you become a man of clarity, you stop fearing the truth because you understand that rejection is not a loss. It's redirection. Yes, there will always be signs. And yes, women will always reveal more than they intend to. But the real question is not whether you can spot them. The real question is, what will you do once you see them? Will you ignore them out of desperation? Will you cling to someone who has already pulled away? Or will you stand firm in your value and walk with the strength of a man who refuses to settle for less? Because the deeper truth is this: a woman's actions are a mirror reflecting what you allow. If you keep tolerating half love, you'll keep receiving it. But if you demand respect through your presence, your discipline, and your self-worth, you will only attract women who are capable of giving it. So, brother, stop obsessing over the signs. Start building the kind of life where you don't need them. That is where true power lies. That is where a man transforms from lost to legend.